Another dramatic heartbreak ends the Bills' season as they are eliminated from the playoffs by the Kansas City Chiefs 27-24 this week on the Wandering Buffalo podcast.
You are now listening to the Wandering Buffalo podcast with your hosts, Justin Goddard and Andrew Chang.
Bills Mafia, welcome into another episode of the Wandering Buffalo podcast, a show on the Buffalo FamBase podcast network. We are brought to you by 26 Shirts. Been talking about 26 Shirts for a while now. If you haven't done it yet, do yourself a favor. Go ahead, check them out. Awesome t-shirts supporting awesome causes. We're talking about the Bills today getting knocked out of the playoffs once again by the Kansas City Chiefs, and obviously doing it in dramatic fashion, the way only the Buffalo Bills can. It just seems like so long since we had to deal with, losses that you just knew, these gut-wrenching, rip-your-heart-out losses. They're absolutely brutal. They're terrible for my heart health. But hey, that's part of being a Bills fan, right? So for this episode, honestly, for as frustrating as it was, as disappointing as it was, this is not going to be the gloom and doom episode. This is not going to be, everybody sucks, fire everybody. It's just not where my energy is right now. And look, we're all fans out there. If you've gone through this season and you feel right now like everybody needs to get fired, they need to rip it down to the studs, fine. Like that's cool. It's just not where I'm at right now. I feel like for a season that started with such high expectations, the way it went, the ups and downs of it, just the way the season went, I feel like this last game of the season was the embodiment of the whole season. I think the team was fortunate to get there. Not like it was a gift to them. They did have to go on a tear to even, make the playoffs. But just kind of playing the Dolphins in the last game of the season, and it basically being, if you won, forget about the seeding. It was, winning in. How many teams do you have huge expectations for that need the last week of the season, to make sure they make it into the playoffs? And I get there was a lot of circumstances leading up to that, and they really were playing, the best ball that we saw this season going into that game against the Chiefs. At a certain point, the issues that we had all throughout the season that we were, scrapping and clawing to overcome, sometimes, with a dramatic loss, sometimes barely winning. The issues that plagued us all season showed up in that Chiefs game, and honestly, looking at it objectively, taking a step back, it's not even issues that were kind of really gone during that last, winning streak. There were still some issues there. They were just overcoming it. And we talked so many times throughout the season of like, yep, they got away with a couple in this one, but when it comes to the playoffs, you're not going to get away with the same stuff. It came back here, and simple things, we see in the Pittsburgh game, Tyler Bass missed a field goal, have one blocked, and I mean, this game comes down to a 40-something yard attempt for Bass to tie it up. Yes, I expect my kicker to make that kick. You need that from your kicker in this modern NFL. Especially, he's top 5 paid kicker in the league. But saying it all comes down to that, and, he cost us the game and everything, it's just not the case. I mean, there was some play calling in there I didn't like. There was some execution I didn't like. And it's all these things that add up together to end up where we are. And really throughout the season, the biggest glaring issues the Bills had for me it's just kind of lack of a deep threat receiver on offense. Defensively, just battling injuries all year. And then just special teams blunders at the worst times. So, I mean, I was kind of excited going into this playoffs because we saw like these other teams getting banged up going into it. And, you know, right as the season was ending, we were getting healthy. Daquan Jones comes back, you know. Rasul Douglas looked like he was going to be, you know, ready to go this game. Terrell Bernard was on the fence. But going into the playoffs, we were like finally getting healthy, and then just between Miami and Pittsburgh, like we just got decimated again. And injuries are going to be part of every season, unfortunately. It's something that you have to overcome. But I mean, looking at a game where we've already lost Milano for this season, Dodson was on the fence about playing. Balin Spector was his backup. He got hurt. Dodson got hurt for a while in this game. AJ Klein, I believe he got hurt a little bit, but, you know, he was on his couch getting ready for family vacation. He comes in against Pittsburgh, and he's the hero. And against the Chiefs, you know, a veteran quarterback like Mahomes, stud tight end and Travis Kelce, they abused him. They took advantage of him. And these aren't excuses. I'm not justifying, you know, any reasons that the Bills lost, just kind of talking through it. Because despite all that, the Bills had chances to win this game. The defense got absolutely decimated in this game. The defense was not good. That being said, when push came to shove, they gave the Bills offense 2 chances to control that game. And the one was Hoyer forcing the fumble, like right at the goal line from Hardman. You know, not only did the Chiefs not get any points there, but it gave the offense the ball back. And then I believe we weren't able to do anything with that possession. Defense came up with another big stop. And, you know, here we are. There was chances to win this game. You know, we have Trent Sherfield in there instead of Gabe Davis. As much hate as Gabe gets, as much as, you know, I personally am all for letting Gabe walk. You know, we have 2 shot plays to Sherfield that he's not able to haul in. Would Davis get him? I don't know. Davis has had, you know, some unsure hands himself, but as far as like the guy that can make the plays out of structure down the field, Gabe Davis has been that guy in some instances. And we even saw Diggs with, you know, whatever that ball was like 75 in the air from Josh Allen, and it goes right through Diggs' hands. And that's another big play. I've seen a lot of criticism for Brady and his play calling in this game, and, you know, not having the big explosive plays. This is how good, smart defenses are going to defend the Bills, right? It's what the Bills defense does to, you know, other teams with electric players and to stop the explosives. We do it against Tyreek Hill in Miami. It's that, you know, cover 2, keep everything in front of you and come up and tackle, and you limit the explosive plays. And, you know, so much criticism for Josh Allen and his decision-making this year, for his, you know, ball security. Josh Allen, in my opinion, played this game about as good as we could have asked for. He was effective on the ground. He made good decisions with the ball. He didn't put the ball in danger. The one I keep seeing flash up constantly is towards the end of the game where he misses Shakir in the end zone, and you see Diggs, you know, running free underneath. Looks like it would have been a pretty easy first down. When you rewatch that play a couple times, that pass was thrown with so much anticipation. That was going to hit Shakir right on the numbers, and nobody's having the conversation about Diggs was open for a first down. If we score on that play, right? And, you know, Josh Allen gets bumped in the pocket as he's releasing it and makes the ball come up a little short. And I think Tony Romo was even on the play-by-play saying, if the Bills lose this game, remember this play right here. This will be the reason why. And there's so many other factors that go into a game that you can't just boil it down to one play. But here we are talking about, we had a check down option open there that would have gotten the first down. Well, if it goes the other way too, right? So if Josh Allen hits that check down to Diggs and whatever, we don't end up scoring on that drive and say the game ends with the same result. Well, now we're going to be sitting, behind the screens looking at, look at how he could have had Shakir open on this one here. So, it's always playing the results. And, did Allen go with a little bit of a riskier play to try to get that touchdown? Yeah. That's what Josh Allen does. That's why we love Josh Allen. That's what makes him so incredible, is he threads these needles. He makes these ridiculous plays that other people won't roll the dice on. That's the balls he has. That's what makes him special. So, getting bumped in the pocket and having a miss there, I can't put that too much on him. It happens, right? I'm looking more at, these explosive plays that we needed to get. When you have the chances, and we saw Allen and Diggs miss a ton this year on some of that deep stuff, especially down the stretch. I think there's some misuse of Diggs, and that's a conversation for another time. Can be something we get into in the off season of the way Brady's using Diggs. He doesn't have to be your shot player, but when he gets down the field and he has a step on a defender, and Allen is able to put an absolute dime right into his hands, and he's not able to come, that's the play that you need from your $30 million wide receiver. That's one he has to get done. And I'm not going to sit here and get into, the cryptic stuff all last offseason, the drama going on last offseason where Diggs was frustrated. I don't have a problem with him doing that. A lot of people hate that. I think there's different ways it could be handled that could have been better, whatever. For what it's worth, he was showing the same kind of frustration that we are. But now in this situation, if you're going to have that level of frustration at not getting it done, then when you're that guy, you're probably second, third highest paid player on the team. You're just behind Josh Allen. When the game's on the line and that ball comes to you, you got to come down with it. That's where I get into, the Bills not having that really true down the field target. And I absolutely love what we have in Kincaid. I think he had a tremendous rookie year. I think that he's a guy that it's going to be great for the Bills going forward. Shakir also emerged down the stretch this season, just having an absolutely bananas, tail end of the season. You'll see the stat floating around out there about like the efficiency of him. He had something like 460 yards on like 30 targets, 32, something like that. And Diggs had like 430 yards on 80 targets. So just what we saw from Shakir and Kincaid, it's encouraging. And, I don't want to go right to, whatever it is, what it is, next year's our year, we're fine, whatever. Every year does change a little bit. The teams around you change a little bit. I do think that there was a much clearer path to getting to the Super Bowl than you'll see in most seasons, with Burrow being out and, some of the key injuries on other teams. You see a team like Houston and CJ Stroud being, looking like a legit quarterback. Now Houston's going to be in the mix every year. You never know what's going to happen year to year, right? Beginning of this season, you would have said, Bills, Chiefs, Bengals, that's, the cream of the crop. And then week 3 or whatever, Burrow's dealing with injuries. They have a terrible start. Burrow ends up going down for the season. And even with that, the Bengals are competitive down the stretch. So what do they look like getting Burrow back? They just lost their offensive coordinator to go be the head coach of the Titans. There's so much that changes year over year with each team. And, we can look at it as like, this was the team to get it done with. We have aging players that, some hard choices are going to be coming up, and, it's a business, and it sucks that, some of these guys that have been with us through, turning this whole organization around to being a constant competitor, you'd love to see them, be guys that could have been around if we were able to get it done and win the Super Bowl. Realistically, times are going to change, and as long as you have Josh Allen as your quarterback, as long as you keep building around him, you're going to have this chance. And all throughout the offseason, we'll talk about, was it time to make a move at coach? There's still a chance that it could happen. How many times do you let a McDermott-led team lose in the playoffs before, it's not good enough, before you're wasting Allen's career? All different discussions that we can get to throughout this season. But for this episode, I didn't want to harp too much on kind of, the play-by-play and what I liked and what I didn't like. If you're listening to this episode, you watched the game. You probably found a way to maybe watch it back again. We know what happened in the game, and I think this is kind of what we're going to be dealing with, whatever you want to call it, Brady Manning, if you want to call it, Jordan Ewing. I've seen all kinds of comparisons out there to just, somebody that was great that had somebody else great at the same time that was just getting it done that little bit more. I think this Chiefs team has some issues going forward, same as the Bills, and they're going to have the same type of opportunities to address it going forward. You saw kind of their moves to be able to replace Tyreek Hill. They tried to do it with, a committee of Valdez-Scantling and Kadarius Toney and, Rashee Rice as a rookie who emerged, but some of the other options that they brought in were just complete flops, and they're going to have another crack at fixing those. So the Chiefs are going to come back as a different team next year. But the Bills have that same opportunity, and it's a year that they can come back and get healthy and see what we have in the tank for next year. It sucks right now. It really does. Especially coming down to the wire, and if you're going to miss that kick, I wish it would have at least gone to the left. Like, the comparisons that we have to wide right, it was like a very similar distance kick. Anybody that's watched wide right, like the ball path like almost looked the same as it. It was just an absolutely brutal way to go. But I will say, for anybody that wants to sit here and, destroy Tyler Bass, he cost us the game, whatever, like, he didn't. There was some play calls that I didn't like. On that drive in particular, you got the ball, you're threatening field goal range, right around the 2-minute mark, and come out pass play. That's, You've been running Allen all game. You've been using his legs all game. You've been using the run game to pretty good success all game. To kind of not try to milk down some more clock as you try to get yards there. It's a little head scratching to me. Because even if Bass makes that field goal, we feel good for another couple minutes, whatever. But you're giving Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, the ball back in a tied game with something like a minute and a half left. Whereas at least if you put yourself in the same position and killed a little bit more clock, you feel a little bit better. But we've seen it with 13 seconds. We've seen what they're capable of. So just, Bass making that field goal, maybe we took more time off the clock. Maybe we go to overtime. We've seen that go sideways too. So, anybody that just wants to put this right on Tyler Bass for like that, it's just not how football works. There's so many different plays leading up to that. And the other one I'm going to address before we go to the break, just because I've seen some wild all over the place opinions on it. So I feel like I have to give mine. The fake punt. For me, I'm pretty much always, I'm always going to be team don't run a fake punt. Just don't think there's enough success with the fake punt. 4th and 5, DeMar Hamlin, pretty much anybody back there. I'm not going to feel good about converting that. You get the element of surprise, whatever. 5 yards is a lot of yards to get in the NFL for, in particular, somebody that's not, carrying the ball off. And do I feel a little bit different if it's whatever, say a healthy Nyheim Hines back there, something like that? Maybe a little bit. For me, if you're going for it on 4th down, the element of surprise isn't really what I'm going for. I have a $250 million quarterback. I have a top flight offense. I'm not really banking on the element of surprise to be what carries that play. I'm putting the ball into my unicorn quarterback's hands. I'm running some sort of, RPO triple option. He has, a moving pocket where he can choose, if he sees a crease to just run for it. You have Dawson Knox, you have a Dalton Kincaid leaking out. Shit, for how many times you brought in Edwards as an eligible lineman, tight end type player, you haven't leaked him out and done a pass all year. That's a very high variance play. That's a guy that doesn't catch the ball a lot. But if you're going for the element of surprise, we saw Detroit do some things like this. I'm putting the ball in Josh Allen's hands with any sort of, game-deciding decision. I'm going to let Allen go out there and either make the player or not, and I'm going to live with that over fake punt. Furthermore, for me, for the fake punt, if we're talking, element of surprise, we haven't run a fake all year, blah, 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 maybe you catch him sleeping. I would counter that with just Andy Reid is a seasoned veteran coach that's had great success in the league. He has attention to detail. I'm willing to bet any money that I have to my name that they're looking at the Bills throughout the week, game planning, and they're looking at, Sam Martin pulled his hammy last week. They're on the fence. They, added Matt Hawk. Maybe he's playing in the game. But if Sam Martin's playing, we're going to get after him. We're going to, if he starts having, unsuccessful punts, watch out for the fake. There's just no way in my head that isn't something that Andy Reid was talking to his team about all week. So whatever, that's my 2 cents on it. It's easy to play in the benefit of hindsight. If you did catch him sleeping and it worked, then it's a bold, great decision. Ultimately, don't have a huge problem with it. It's not something, we get cute with and do all the time. It's something that, we busted out right there. Tendency breaker type deal. Maybe you can catch him sleeping. But for my money, if I'm going for it on any 4th down situation, it's going to be in Josh Allen's hands. But that's going to take care of the game portion of it. When I come back from break, just want to talk a little bit about some things we're going to be looking at as we move forward in the offseason. So stick around.
Hey, this is Brother Bill. Now back to the show.
Welcome back in, and thank you again for joining me on this week's episode of the Wandering Buffalo podcast. If you've made it this far in the episode, just do us a favor, like, share, subscribe, tell a friend about it. We're going to be coming out all throughout the off season, so just make sure you're not missing any episodes. We'll be talking about the draft, free agency, some wish lists, some things that we'd like to see done with the team, just all kinds of stuff. And then check out the website, wanderingbuff.com. Producer Jake has been doing tremendous work over there. We're working on getting a couple more writers throughout this off season to just kind of keep bringing you differing opinions, so you're not just getting, only my opinion. You might be listening to this right now and think I'm an idiot. It's been suggested before. But just having a couple other guys writing for the website. So check it out. If you're ever interested in getting involved with the show, drop us a comment. Email us on the website, whatever you want to do. But get in contact. We're always looking to get people involved. This side of the episode, I do just want to talk a little bit about, kind of the idea that of this kind of never being the same team again, right? And as much as we see, in every NFL franchise, there's turnover year to year. For the most part, the last 2-3 years, we've been doing some, tweaking, but your overwhelming core on this team has remained the same for quite some time. And we're going to have to start looking at some tough decisions of guys that have been tremendous for the organization, that have been fan favorites. And we're going to have to make hard decisions about where we can spend money, where we need to get younger. And you got Josh Allen's contract hitting. It's going to be a really interesting offseason. And honestly, kind of sitting here, what are we, January 23rd? If I had to guess right now, I would say that there's a chance that we take a little bit of a step back next season, and you're reloading on the fly. You got to reload and reset. Part of me thinks maybe a little half step back. Part of me is like, you still got Josh Allen. You still got some weapons on this offense. You've kind of built around him. You can always add to that. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not a step back. Maybe it's full sprint forward. A lot of the players to me coming up that you're going to have to make tough decisions on. Your Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, Trey White, unfortunately, back-to-back terrible season-ending injuries. Are you able to have him back at any sort of, version of who we knew Trey White to be? One of my favorite all-time Bills, Trey White, right there. It's also a business. It's also really difficult decisions that are going to come down. I know the organization loves him too, but for being a guy that's getting a little bit older, just really devastating, lower body injuries that are hard to bounce back from in that position, you got decisions to make there. Dane Jackson, he's wasn't great in this game, but he's been valuable depth. Rasul Douglas, tremendous, probably my favorite deadline acquisition ever. He's also not, a spry young guy. So just a ton of question marks going into the season. That's kind of just on the defensive side of the ball. You also got Poona Ford, Daquan Jones, Epinesa, Floyd. Move over to the offensive side of the ball. You got Gabe Davis is the highlight there. But there's just so many players that are up right now. And I feel like this time of the year, it always looks more concerning than it is with Brandon Beane, because he does so many of the 1-year contracts. There's a lot of turnover every year. There's usually a couple guys that we really want back, and we're upset when they don't come back, and then we replace them with somebody else that we really like. So we'll see what Brandon Beane has up his sleeve. But I will say, as much as I have the concern that we might be taking, a little half step backwards this coming season, my reason for optimism is also just, it's like right on the same level. We have a guy, everybody was really concerned with the linebacker position going into this year. Well, now you have Terrell Bernard, who looks like, a star in the making. Unfortunately, he's hurt down the stretch. You went this whole season without Milano. He's going to be back and healthy. You saw Elam get a quick look at the end of the season here. He struggled at first and then comes away with a huge interception and a couple pass breakups. All of a sudden, do we have something there again? Dalton Kincaid was just great throughout his whole rookie season. We saw Shakir emerge, James Cook become, a superstar running back. Probably most importantly, for how long we've talked about keeping Josh Allen upright, just tremendous job from the offensive line this year, keeping the continuity there. And for the most part, these are some younger guys with kind of spaced out contracts. Cyrus Torrance, a rookie. McGovern just signed a contract. Spencer Brown's going to be coming off his rookie deal. Deion Dawkins been extended. Mitch Morse is probably the only guy that you're thinking about. Maybe you have to make plans for sometime soon. But I feel like we've been having that conversation for like 4 or 5 years now. You also have, Brian Bates as your valuable depth there. Maybe is it time for him to step up? I don't know. We'll see what happens there, but the consistency that we got from this offensive line is probably the biggest thing for me. And then, kind of like how I talked about with the Chiefs, and they had Valdez Scantling and Kadarius Toney, and they were just kind of these whiffs of people that they thought were going to be impactful. I feel like we had a similar situation with Sherfield and Hardy. Personally, I was very excited for both of them. And both of them were very small factors in the offense throughout this year. I'll tell you, as I sit right now, number one on my wish list this year is to go out and bring in, like Gabe Davis walked. There's a lot of things I like about Gabe Davis. I think we need the true field stretching ability at the number 2 receiver. And go ahead and bring in one of these kind of value veterans that we've seen over the years. Your Smoke Browns, your Manny Sanders. Bring me in one of those guys that can start week 1 if need be, but go out and make some valuable investments at the wide receiver position. Not only, has this become a league where you can't just have that true number 1 and then kind of some guys around him. Teams are starting to have like 2 bona fide studs at those positions and a dangerous guy in the slot. I think you need to start looking for not only that true number 2 receiver, but you have to acknowledge that Diggs isn't getting any younger. And I think we, for the most part, all love Diggs. Father Time is undefeated, and I would be looking for maybe even a double dip at receiver this year, maybe one in the early first couple of rounds and one a little bit later. We've seen Bean have some success with some late round picks, and Khalil Shakir, Isaiah Hodgins, who's obviously not on the team anymore, but had some success. Give me kind of a flyer on a guy you like in the 5th round that maybe they can take over and be the number 2 for whatever guy that we draft that can be a number 1, and just keep the cupboards full for Josh Allen. I think there's some work to do on defense too, but this team is going to go as far as Josh Allen and the offense go, and we've seen that for years. The defense can be great and help out. Push comes to shove in the league right now, it's what you can get done on offense. So you gave Josh Allen some meaningful investments this past offseason. Do it again. You brought in a lot of offensive line help. to shore up the depth. Just keep going, keep loading up Josh Allen, get him another wide receiver too. And if you it's kind of the Elam Benford situation here, where Benford was a late round pick, Kyrie Elam was the first round pick. Benford ends up being the stud, and we're still unsure about who Kyrie Elam is on the team. Do that for me at receiver too. If your first round guys doesn't work out for whatever reason, hopefully you got another 5th round hit. Beans had some great success with the late round picks. Love for it to be, that true stud first round pick, but if you're getting guys, you're getting guys. So we'll look at all that more as we're moving through the offseason, start looking at some free agent wish lists, some players to look at in the draft, a ton of stuff to go over throughout the offseason. And, as we always say in football, there is no offseason. So we won't be taking much time off. We'll be here every week with you. Let you know in advance if we're taking any time off. There's going to be some vacations coming up here, whatever. But we'll keep you posted. Like I said, make sure you like, share, subscribe. Make sure you're catching every episode. That's going to wrap it up for this week and this season. Hopefully next year, man. As always, go Bills.